Caleb, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you on.
Thank you, Jack.
I want to ask you about California's Assembly Bill 241 and its impact on physicians.
Yes, thank you. So the law was passed by the legislature a couple years ago now in 2019. It started to take effect last year, though, and over the last 12 months, physicians and in particular instructors of continuing medical education have begun to feel the effects. The law requires that all instructors of continuing medical education courses, these are the courses that all physicians and surgeons are required to take every 2 years to maintain their licenses. Well, now as part of those requirements, every single course, with very few exceptions, must include training on what's called implicit bias. This is the idea that everyone may have inherent biases on the basis of any number of immutable characteristics, including race, that everyone has some of these biases and they're unconscious, and they might cause you to act on them unconsciously. And so now, as a matter of taking all of those courses, each one has to include instruction on that topic.
And why was it important, according to the California legislature, to include this in those courses?
Well, I guess we'd have to ask them, but I guess if we assume the best is that let's just assume the existence of implicit bias, that it might lead to disparate treatment outcomes for patients, and that if they can make all physicians aware of this and teach them how to address it, then maybe they can prevent any of these disparate treatment outcomes for patients. But there are several problems with that idea. One is that the existence and the prevalence of implicit bias, particularly in the healthcare industry, is controversial at best. There's mixed evidence on its prevalence. There's mixed evidence whether it even leads to disparate outcomes. And worse, there's evidence that these trainings alone can lead to negative results. They can, for example, cause resentment amongst all the physicians that are taking these courses. They can even lead to distrust from their patients, because after all, if the starting point for these trainings is that every single doctor is inherently biased against someone for some reason, then why should you trust the physician? So if you're someone who, an instructor who disagrees with the evidence, because like I said, the evidence of these problems is mixed and it's controversial, you can't really just disclaim that I'm only providing this message because the state requires me to. By having to give these strategies or examples, it's really forcing you to provide the favored viewpoint and message of the government. And when the First Amendment applies, as it would in a situation like this is the type of situation where the government is held to the highest burden to prove that that kind of requirement should be constitutional. And of course, we don't think that they can meet that burden.
Any final thoughts for our audience?
I think as we've seen with various efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion, even the instances where there's evidence to support these well-meaning efforts, typically what we see in states like California is they take a step too far. In this case, California has gone especially too far in assuming a problem exists while there's only mixed evidence to support it. But in spite of that, taking such a heavy hand in requiring inclusion of something that's only supported with mixed evidence in a very important field, which is medicine, and imposing this on all of our physicians and surgeons while they might be making a problem all of their own making. And this is a problem that I applaud our clients, 2 doctors, for taking a stand. It's an unpopular stance perhaps in medicine, but they are standing up for what they believe to be right and actually supported by evidence. And we believe that the First Amendment is on their side, and we hope a court will see it similarly.
Caleb Trotter with the Pacific Legal Foundation, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jack.